Well, hello, and welcome or welcome back to Read Becca. It's time for a book haul, I think. It's been several months since I've checked in on what I've been acquiring and amassing here. It's not a huge amount, but I've got a couple of special editions that have come in. I've got some indie press stuff that I've picked up, and of course, I did just go traveling and naturally, as a result, had to stop into the indie bookstores there while I was on my journeys. And my restraint there, though, was very high, so I only got a couple of things. Both in terms of time, really, I think, because people with me did not want to spend all day in a bookstore. Can you imagine? And also, I didn't want to pack a load of books, so I didn't fill up my bag with new books. I got a few small things. So I think let's start with the things I bought on my travels. I got 4 short books. The first one was directly inspired by my travels. When I arrived, I got to meet my friend Shannon, who I met through BookTube, for the first time, and naturally we talked about books. It was a great time, but one of the books that we talked about is a very popular book, so this will not be a surprise to anyone or an unknown to anyone, but I have never read 84 Charing Cross Road by Helene Hanff. And as far as I know, this is nonfiction. It is a series of letters and very short, and it's a discussion between someone in the US and someone in the UK over books. One of them is a bookseller and the other one is trying to locate books, I think, and they develop a friendship over these letters. So that seems like it might be perfect for end of the year vibes, possibly, for me. So a short one to dive into, I think. And very well loved, of course, on BookTube. The next one is one I have not heard anyone talk about, but immediately, I didn't need to even read anything about this, but it grabbed my interest, and that is A Drum in One Hand, a Sockeye in the Other, Stories of Indigenous Food Sovereignty from the Northwest Coast by Charlotte Cote. And so that's just a topic that I'm very interested in. I'm from the West Coast, and that's where I was traveling to. So it is kind of this is not directly from the area that I was in, but general regionally. And I have a very big interest in food culture and indigenous practices there. So yeah, this is an interesting one, and again, another short one. So both of those are nonfiction, and then I got 2 fiction. And the first one is kind of an odd item. So this one is, I believe, a Kickstarter item, and I bought it at the bookstore there. And I got Steam in the Willows. So the text is The Wind in the Willows, but the illustrations are by Krista Brennan. And you can get lots of different versions of Wind in the Willows with different illustrations, but this one specifically is illustrated as steampunk. So I'll try to put some more in here, but you can see there are little steampunk flares to the individual illustrations. And I am both a massive fan of Wind in the Willows, and I completely just realized, this is very random, not intentional at all. I am wearing my Wind in the Willows shirt right now. So yeah, perfect. I'm a huge fan of Wind in the Willows, and I'm a huge fan of steampunk in general. I absolutely used to go to a local bar for steampunk night, 100%. So I am that nerd. So this is something I've never seen or heard of before. The illustrations are gorgeous, so I'll try to insert some of those here, but I was very excited to stumble across it. And then we're into several that are connected together somewhat, in that they are all by Ursula K. Le Guin. The first one was a super cool find at the bookshops where I was. So this is Ursula K. Le Guin's Paradise is Lost. It's a novella that was originally published, I think, in Birthday of the World and Other Stories. And this is a bind-up that is very special because it's somewhat of a limited printing from a local press there on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington. And so that's very tiny press, I'm assuming, limited printing, and that's just sort of a special item to find while I was there. And it's very pretty. The press is Winter Texts, and so it has glorious end papers for a little paperback, and you can see their press insignia there. I think I said there's only 300 printed. And as a specialty fan of Ursula K. Le Guin, as you could tell, like, this is something super cool to have in my collection. But yeah, I'm so excited, and I have not actually read this one, but very gorgeous, gorgeous art all the way around on the exterior. Then we're into some that I bought previously, just online, I think. The first one is a teeny tiny, very teeny tiny. So this is just an essay. This is Ursula K. Le Guin's The Carrier Bag Theory of Fiction with an introduction by Donna Haraway. So this one is one of her essays, obviously on fiction and literature. And that's my favorite area that Le Guin writes in, is literary criticism, really. And she's so good at getting inside and critiquing the ideas behind how we talk about literature. So I know nothing about this one, and I haven't read it before as far as I know, but it is an older essay, so it's nice to have this little specialty item. And this one is from Terra Ignota Press, and it also does have illustrations in it, if I can find one. They're not super my style, but it's always nice to have a specialty illustrated item. Last for the Le Guin works, I have Space Crone by Ursula K. Le Guin. This is a newly released compilation of past works, collecting specifically the essays that she wrote on gender and feminism, and circling around space and science fiction, obviously, because those are her areas, really. And this is edited by So Mayer and Sarah Shin, with an afterword by Arwen Curry. So again, essays are my favorite thing from Le Guin. She is such a thinker and introspector. So very excited to have this. And this is from Silver Press, which I don't think I have gotten anything from them before, but I definitely need to look at their catalog. And then last, for the kind of oddity items in essays, I have Pratchett's Women by Tansy Rayner Roberts, and this is self-published. This is a short collection of essays. I'm pretty sure this also won it like a related work award, or maybe in the past this was previously published as blog posts, so it may have been one of the blog posts. I should have checked before talking about it, but regardless, something in here I believe won an award. So award-winning author. I think I also have one of her fiction books on my Kindle to get to too. So I just need to get to the author because she very much intrigues me. So this is Pratchett's Women. This is a take on Terry Pratchett's Women of Discworld from a superfan author. So that delights me. And also one of the essays is titled Socks, Lies, and the Monstrous Regiment, which, if you know, that is a hilarious title. It's great. So yes, absolutely need to read this one. So fantastic topic. And then the only kind of boring, I guess, books, like generic, brand new type books I have, I already had Annihilation in this paperback copy by Jeff Vandermeer. This is new, weird, super strange, surreal science fiction. But a fourth book is coming out, and it's coming out in a very different edition from this one that I already have. So I bought books 2 and 3, just so I would have them in case they remove availability of them, because I wanted to have at least these 3 in these editions, because these are the ones that I actually prefer the most in terms of how they look and the feel of them. So I'm quite a fan of Jeff Vandermeer, and I really need to do a complete read through. I've only read the first, so yeah. Onward, that's all the sort of standard books. Then we have 2 very special edition books. So this one is a Wraith-marked Kickstarter edition of Sufficiently Advanced Magic, the first book in the Arcana Ascension series. And I've read books 1 and 2. I adore this series so much. This is such a different series from most of what I read, really. It is not quite epic fantasy, but it also is. It's very much a magic school with a questing and like dungeon diving element, also some competition elements. There is a lot to it. It's also it's a progression fantasy. And what that means, it's got sort of video game feel to it. So this feels very much like a JRPG game, but told in a story. And the author very much innovated the subgenre of progression fantasy because it doesn't quite fit into what people expect from genres like lit RPG or game lit, where you are getting very specific progression and efforts to build skills. You're getting really hard magic systems built in here, but you're not getting the stat printouts and stuff. That's worked into the story. So you are hearing a lot about magic systems and the details of how the magic works, but it's really integrated nicely. And Andrew Rowe, the author, is a game developer, so he does a great job of doing that and really providing the storytelling with the gaming elements. So this one is super fun and entertaining for me. It's just a great example of high fantasy with a hard magic system, exceptional world building, and also great characters. Corden Cadence, the main character here, absolutely adore him. He's a great example of so many things, and there's fantastic diversity to what becomes his crew, more or less. So I love this series. And I've read the first 2 books of this series, but there are multiple other series in this universe that he's written at this point, and I'm behind. I think there are 4 books out in this one, so I need to get back to this series. But this was a Kickstarter that I was waiting more than a year on, and it is so worth it. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous copy from Wraithmark, so very pleased that I Kickstarted it. Okay, some shuffling to move things out of the way. So this next one is a really, really big splurge. Really big splurge. I missed it in the first round and put myself on the email list for if it became available to order again. And thankfully, like the first round, it was a bad time for me to be splurging this much on a book. And the second time around it was actually a pretty good time for me to be splurging a lot on a book. And so I took the big splurge. So I think I'm gonna just put video in here because I don't want to take everything out while I'm talking. But this is the Folio Society edition, 3 volumes of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. And I'm just realizing as well, both the last book that I got a special edition of and this one, I loaned out my regular copies and never got them back. So I don't have regular copies of either of them, even though I've read them. But now I have special editions. So I am very excited for this. So the 3 editions are because it is one massive, massive book, but it's broken into 3 parts. And so instead of printing one massive book, they printed the parts separately. This is a strange book, and Susanna Clarke is such a wondrous writer. She writes like a lot of classic and historical writers, but she's so powerful in the way she provides imagery, I think, and the strangeness of the imagery. This is a story that is taking place in a version of historical England where magic is kind of gone, but the Society of Magicians are trying to bring it back in some ways, but also trying to not in others. And it's happening at the time of Napoleonic Wars, and so there would be this great benefit to having magic. And there's also a major fae element, dark fae element. And so I don't want to get too into plot, but man, I love this story and I am so excited to reread it. And the timing here is kind of perfect for me to want to reread it at least. I don't know how much time I will have to do so, but Susanna Clarke just released a new collection of short stories in this world. There is another collection, The Ladies of Grace Adieu, previously that was out. And so we have this book and 2 collections of short stories, I think. So yeah, I'm super duper excited to have this on my shelves. They're beautiful illustrated editions and yeah, fantastic. I'm so excited. So I need to like rearrange my shelves now with my specialty books because I want this to be on display definitely. Oh dear, we lost the books. Whoops. So we got the pile. It's very wobbly. It's very purple and green, which is appropriate for me, my peacock colored pile. So that is it for the books. I'm very excited about these. Yeah. And thankfully, I guess foreshadowing, I'm going to, again, do the Read What You Own at the start of the year. I'm not joining in with the standard group in November, but I think definitely a lot of these are going to get picked up for Read What You Own at the beginning of 2025. So I think that's it for me today. What are you most excited about here? Did you learn about anything new? Let me know down below. And thank you so very much for watching.